we've got a couple of, I would say even less than a handful of dominant performers on the men's and women's side, and that always is, I mean, it's great for the athletes themselves, but it's not that great for the tournament because I don't see too many upset results coming forward. But I mean, we'll have to, we'll have to, and so far we haven't seen any upsets yet. But of course, all eyes will be on Novak Djokovic, who will probably go down as the greatest tennis player of all time, depending on how he performs in the next couple of years. Tianyu, I'll start with you. What do you make of Novak Djokovic's early matches at the Australian Open, and do you think it's going to be smooth sailing for him? Do you think that he's not going to face too much competition?
Well, watching Novak Djokovic's recent match, it suddenly occurred to me that if this man was a fisherman, he would really
Let's start off with some sort of crazy comparison.
Yeah,
the first question I asked, let's compare Djokovic to a fisherman.
Curious how that sentence would end.
Yes, please continue.
He would really make a fortune out of it. This man just seems to be very good at fishing.
What?
Earlier this month at the United Cup, he was beaten unexpectedly by Alex de Minaur, and during that match he seemed to have some problems with his right wrist, calling for a physiotherapist twice.
I'm still waiting for the fisherman link.
Just wait.
Okay, I'm gonna be patient. Sorry.
Yeah, and
you're getting there.
Yeah, and on the court he was struggling with his serve. Producing a lot of unforced errors, and then in his first round match in Melbourne, the Croatian young talent Dino Prismic really gave him a test and presented his incredible defensive skills and the ability to attack at the right time.
Yeah.
But still, it was this crafty fisherman that got his fish on the hook. He seemed to have fully recovered from his wrist problem.
This is a very elongated metaphor. Like it started very early and now it's kind of finding its way back.
Yeah, and even though the game seemed to have be a little back and forth from time to time, in the key moments, it was this Djokovic who would always seize his opportunity to kill the game. So
we've always seen this from him, right? Where in the critical moments he just steps up. He can be facing insurmountable odds, and when the chips are really down, that's where we normally see the best of him, right? Even at this age, against competitors that are sometimes, almost 20 years younger than him.
But hang on, I'm still.
Are you still going back to the fisherman thing?
I'm still confused about this fisherman concept.
We're gonna need more explanation here.
Are you saying Djokovic is using this wrist injury as a bait?
Yeah, as a bait.
Okay.
You know how to when to pull the hook and
to mess his opponent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder. I've always thought of the so-called lesser tournaments that some of these greats play in. I wonder if they use them as opportunities to make the media and tennis fans doubt them, and they try different techniques and different sorts of tactics to kind of prepare for Grand Slam tournaments. That's what I would do. Like, so for example, if I was preparing for the Australian Open and I was playing, the United Cup is quite a big deal, to be fair. But the Melbourne, is it the Melbourne Cup? I don't even know what it's called. Is it the Melbourne Cup?
Park.
No, what's the tournament before the Australian Open?
The United Cup.
No, there was something before
Brisbane?
the Australian Open. Brisbane Open?
The Brisbane International.
There's some tournament before the Australian Open that no one cares about, and Djokovic was playing in it, right? If I was him, I would use that as an opportunity to, let's say, for example, I wanted to try a new backhand, or if I wanted to try a different sort of service, or
tactics.
Different tactics. I would use that as an opportunity to try these new things, because if it works out, great. If it doesn't, then fantastic, because then going into the Australian Open, people would be doubting me. They would think, oh, this is my opportunity to take down one of the greatest of all time, and I would use that underdog status to to exceed.
Maybe it's his strategy.
To excel. Sorry, that's the word.
Yeah. Strategy. Yeah, I think Djokovic still played the game with relative ease, and he was full of praise for this young Croatian player after the game, saying he felt like he was playing against himself in the mirror when playing against Prismic. But at the same time,
Wait, Djokovic said that?
Yeah.
That's kind of like, is that an insult? playing against myself in the mirror. So was he complimenting his opponent?
Considering how...
I think that's a bit underhanded though. Saying I'm playing myself in the mirror. He's saying like, well, like my opponent wasn't even there. I was just basically playing against myself.
Considering the level he's playing, and considering the opponent is just a rookie.
It's a little bit shady. I think, like, I see where the compliment can come from, but I think it's also a little bit shady.
Yeah.
As a first language English speaker, like, you know, I can tell you guys there's a bit of an undercurrent of shadiness.
Yeah, the remark kind of echoes what he said in an interview ahead of the tournament. When asked who he considered his greatest threat to the title at the Melbourne Park, Djokovic said himself. Yeah, and
Djokovic said his greatest opponent is himself.
Oh, classic.
Remember how we've always spoken about like how sometimes the crowd get onto his back and that sort of thing, and how that sort of motivates him. He probably says things like this because he wants the crowd to get on his back, and that motivates him. So he knows when he says something like that, the crowd's going to be like, "This guy thinks he's amazing." I mean, to be fair, he is, but that, you know, he probably tries to rile up, you know, journalists and, you know, people like us and fans, you know, so that when he does get to moments where he really needs that extra motivation and fans start booing him, you know, then
kind of needs that kind of stimulation.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Draymond Green, you know, in the NBA when he plays for Golden State, when he I think goes out of his way to annoy opposition opponents, opposition fans, etc. Because honestly, that drives him, that motivates him, and makes him perform better. And I honestly think it's the same for Djokovic.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, but looking at his early performances, do you think that it's going to be an easy run for him, or do you think that he's going to face some challenges?
Yeah, I actually agree with what Djokovic said. Australian Open is his favorite and most successful event.
Yeah.
Which has been dominating throughout his career, winning the title 10 times and a 95% of win rate in the tournament.
Crazy.
What really gave him the confidence and ease to, you know, just to adjust his tempo and tactics with each game he plays.
I guess he's not wrong. I mean, he really is his own greatest enemy, because clearly everybody else that he's faced at this particular tournament, he's just cruised past them. Not cruised past them, but I mean, his win rate is just phenomenal. So
incredible.
Statistically, if you look at it, he doesn't really, he hasn't really ever faced great opposition at that particular tournament.
He's on the top level alone.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he literally does stand on that podium at the Australian Open for the last decade alone. So, I mean, you know, as arrogant as it sounds, you know, it kind of is true. He's his greatest threat, because if he performs at his best, no one can really compete with him. But if he has, you know, mental issues or whatever he's dealing with, then there's opportunities for others to potentially take advantage of that. But if he is at his greatest level, can anybody compete with him at this tournament? I don't think so.
And as you said, motivation is definitely on his side too. You know, as he's aiming to end the GOAT debate this year with the Golden Slam title. And
it's a push for a man his age, but honestly, if anyone can do it, I think he can. We've had this discussion already, but to try and go out and win 5 Grand Slams at the age of, what, 37?
4 Grand Slams. And
the Olympics, sorry, yeah. So 5 major titles at his age.
37.
At 37, and, you know, facing pretty stiff competition, and dealing with a couple of injuries and, you know, aging legs, etc. If he could do it, he will probably go down as one of the greatest athletes of all time, I would say.
I agree.
But looking at this early stages at the Australian Open, Yang Guang, do you agree with do you agree with Djokovic? Do you think he's his potential greatest opponent?
Yes and no. Yes, he has achieved something no one has achieved at the Australian Open. But no, I think he's already showing decline in some parts of the game. It was a scary start for Djokovic this year. A 4-hour battle to start the Grand Slam is not a good news for a top player like him.
No, and also not for someone his age.
Yeah.
Because fatigue will start to set in at some point, and you've got the Australian conditions to deal with. It's tough.
Right. The Croatian teenager Dino Prismic really caused Novak some trouble. So I won't go into the process of the whole match, but there were a couple of moments where you can tell Djokovic really struggled in some shots. One was in the 5th set. After a long rally, Djokovic leaned on his racket to catch a breath.
Jeez.
You can definitely feel Djokovic's heavy legs when Prismic returned the ball, no matter how difficult it looked.
How old is Prismic?
18.
I mean, it's so unfair that we're comparing a 37-year-old to an 18-year-old, but this is what Djokovic wants to do, and he's going to face moments like that where he's going to be completely out of breath playing against essentially a child.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be very difficult, you know, regardless of talent and abilities, to just be able to keep up with someone that's so much younger than you, even if he's half as talented as you are. I mean, just what's the word? Just like scientifically, I mean, he before any match has begun, when he's facing someone that age, he's already technically on the back foot.
I don't know how the future career would look like for Prismic, but for that particular match, he defended like the young version of Djokovic himself. By the way, Djokovic also admitted that Prismic played like him in the post-match press conference.
Yeah.
Djokovic also...
That's where I felt there was a bit of shade.
Djokovic also said he was impressed with Prismic's physical status, of course as a player who is half Djokovic's age. Prismic's speed endurance should be an advantage, but at the same time I think no one should deny Djokovic's decline on that part of the game. It can be the first field in Djokovic's overall strength that can go wrong and drag the GOAT down.
Yeah, and I guess this is something that opposing players, every time he faces them this year, they're going to target that. They're going to try and make him as tired as possible.
Yeah. Another moment in Djokovic's opener, he celebrated wildly, shouting to his box after winning the third set after he lost the second.
In the first round, that is a bit un-Djokovic-like. That is a bit weird.
Yeah, I didn't really see Djokovic getting so emotional in the first round Grand Slam matches. Of course, he was pushed in a way he was never pushed before in an opener, but still, it tells how stressful a player can be. Even it's Djokovic, when he plays a no-name and the game goes off the track a bit in the middle, it was a huge relief to get winning feeling back.
Yeah. But I wonder how much of that was down to him struggling with his game or just struggling with the fatigue element, because I feel like he was probably celebrating something like that because he was able to push through that fatigue and still beat this kid, which is an achievement, like you said, playing someone half his age. That alone is an incredible achievement to overcome, you know, that difficulty and playing for that amount of time. But with that in mind, I mean, this is like we've said, this is the first round.
Yeah.
Can he really maintain that fire throughout the entire tournament?
Exactly. I have to say I'm a little worried about Djokovic, but it seems like every year Djokovic would encounter some problems in early round matches. Like last year's second round tie against Enzo Coucard, Djokovic lost only set of the whole event. But I definitely saw some flaws in Djokovic's start to the Australian Open this year.
But do you think it's mostly down to the aging process, or do you think he's just a little bit rusty?
I think he took the first round games for granted a little bit.
Or there's a possibility that he's doing
a good fisherman.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, there is that argument to it. I mean, for 4 hours, and to show the signs of fatigue that he did, and to celebrate as wildly as he did in the first round.
He did too much.
No, I just think that he, even if he was holding something back, I don't think he was expecting to be pushed that far.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of that was probably down to either overestimating his ability to deal with aging, or he either grossly underestimated his opponent. And I think this is something he needs to be aware of going forward in 2024 in particular, is that everybody he faces, whether it's the first round or the final, everybody's going to see it as an opportunity to down one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to deal with, I think fatigue is going to be Djokovic's biggest enemy this year, besides, you know, like his battle with himself and, you know, trying to stay on top of his game and stay injury free. I think he's going to be pushed physically every single match that he plays this year. And if he wants to go on and achieve that golden slam, I don't know how he's going to cope with the fatigue. It's going to be very, very interesting to watch indeed as the year progresses. Tianyu, there's also been some mixed results for some of China's top talents, and I think this is going to be a pivotal year for one or two of them in particular because of the success that was achieved in 2023. I think of the likes of Zhang Qinwen in particular. But just looking at some of the mixed results you've seen so far, have there been any real big achievements? People that surprised you with a victory? Have there been any disappointments so far?
Well, in the women's singles, Wang Yafan is definitely the biggest surprise for the Chinese fans.
She's a veteran, right?
Yeah. It was after 3 years of waiting that she finally came to the stage of the Melbourne Park.
Yeah.
And when playing against the top opponent, the 22nd seed Romanian player Tirana Cristia, she lost the first set without winning a single game and opened the second set with a 3-0 deficit. But after that, Wang made an incredible comeback and caused a major upset. And also, Zheng Qinwen got up to a good start.
So she was actually 9 games down.
Yeah,
And then fought back from that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's I can't think of the last time that happened in tennis. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a total crush to lose 9 consecutive
Yeah.
games.
It's very. I mean, even if a player is terrible, not saying she's terrible, but even if a player is terrible, it's very rare that they don't win at least one game, like on their own service. So to fight back from being 9 games down is incredible.
Yeah, I believe whoever watched those 9 games would believe there was no way for Wang
Yeah.
to recover.
Yeah.
Or when you are like 9 games down, it's like you can kind of starting to feel that you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
That's a good point
that's
too.
also
Starting to
right, yeah.
change your tactics and
And be a little bit less conservative and just go all out. Yeah.
And tennis is such a sport with so many dramatic twists.
And a lot of momentum. So you probably find there was a momentum shift that her opponent probably couldn't deal with.
Yeah. And also, aside from Wang Yafan, Zheng Qinwen also got off to a good start by beating.
Lost her first game.
But as always, she showed her ability to make quick adjustments when she was falling behind. But Zhu Ling was a major disappointment as she was upset by French player Dodin, who was way below her in terms of world rankings, like kind of ranked 90th place.
95, yeah.
I mean, when we look at these Grand Slams, and I think we've spoken about a couple of players that have been upset by, unseeded or very low-ranked players. I mean, I wonder how much of an impact rankings really have. It seems like when you get to these Grand Slam tournaments, that kind of all goes out the window, and it's just kind of like who shows up on the day. And we've seen that, whether it be for good or bad reasons when we're thinking of some of the Chinese tennis players out there. But it seems like we shouldn't take these rankings too seriously.
It doesn't speak much of the strength of a single player, because
particularly when they get to a Grand Slam tournament, because I think when it's something that serious and where a lot of these tennis players have probably looked forward just to participating in a Grand Slam tournament for their whole lives, I think that's those tournaments, that's where rankings go out the window, just because of the desire of some of the lower ranked lesser players, supposedly, because I think in those moments sometimes desire can outweigh talent.
Yeah, if you rank top 20 or top 30 at the time, maybe it just proves that you are at your best forms in a period of time. But it's
and sometimes the rankings also puts pressure on some players. Sometimes they go into a tournament if they rank number 1, number 2. Then sometimes that pressure actually negatively impacts them.
Yeah, to maintain the rank, it takes a lot of consistency.
Yeah, for sure. Yang Guang, any surprises? Any disappointments?
Well, Shang Juncheng was just brilliant in the men's singles. He played his close friend Mackenzie McDonald, who eliminated Rafael Nadal at last year's Australian Open. Shang trains a lot with McDonald, and they know each other very well.
It reminds me of that movie Wimbledon. You remember when, I don't know if you've seen it,
No.
But one of the main characters goes on to win the title at the end, but on the path to that title win, he had to face his training partner and one of his best friends, and absolutely destroyed him. So that's always quite and it sounds like there was a really good performance in this match as well against a training partner. So I think that's always a little bit tricky for a friendship when you go out there and absolutely destroy your best friend on the biggest stage in tennis. So
how would they
I
face
think
each other after that match?
the next time they train together, it might be a little bit quieter than usual.
But I have to say, Shang certainly lifted his serve quite a lot, which played a key role in his victory. And I was actually worried if he could survive a 5-set marathon, because he looks kind of slim, and he's only 18 years old, but it turned out he managed that quite well.
Sometimes that can help though. I mean, the strength element then becomes tricky, but normally the slimmer players that are lighter on their feet, sometimes they can handle the extended periods of play better than some of the heavier guys like Nadal, for example.
Yeah, yeah, there was no such problem as endurance disadvantage from Xiang's side, obviously. That quite surprised me. Yeah.
So we've now seen Tianyu Naomi Osaka return to the Grand Slam stage, and she's a highly respected tennis player and one of the best female players of the last couple of years, according to experts. What do you make of her return? Do you think that she can get back to her best?
I think from what we have seen so far in her match, she has a fair chance of getting back to her prime. Sorry. It was the first time for her to get back to the stage of a major tournament since September 2022, and
must be nice to take such a long break.
Yes.
Yeah, and still get paid.
And she was just as fierce as powerful as before. She and Caroline Garcia really delivered a high quality match for us. Both of them served excellently, and it seemed like the 16-month lead has little impact on Osaka's heavy weaponry.
Yeah.
Her first serve is still one of the most destructive shots in the game, and her pace and weight of shot remains at a high level. And even though she ended up losing the game, just like her opponent Garcia said after the match, for someone who has been out for 15 months, giving birth 6 months ago is really impressive.
Yeah.
So even though
that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Look, I've had I've said and had thoughts about Naomi Osaka, and just thinking about it now, maybe sometimes taking an extended break from the game for whatever reason it may be, maybe it's a good time to fix what needs to be fixed and kind of reset and get back to your best, especially if you're still relatively young. I mean, regardless of the pregnancy, that's a whole nother conversation. But just taking an extended break from the game when you are a high level athlete, maybe that allows you to kind of reset and recharge and come back to your best if you spend that time wisely. Yang Wang, do you think that she can achieve that? Do you think that the break could have been good for her?
Yeah, we've seen so many cases where women's players went back to tennis courts after pregnancy. Serena Williams, Caroline Wozniacki.
But Naomi Osaka was in a different position where that wasn't the only reason that she stepped away from the game.
That's true.
So I guess it's a fairly unique situation, or at least something. It's unique in the sense that I don't think a lot of tennis players previously have spoken out about taking a break from the game for mental reasons. She's the first high-profile athlete in tennis that I can think of that's used that as a reason.
Yeah, but the names I just mentioned, we've noticed a certain decline when they get back to the court. And Naomi Osaka, I think she stayed away from tennis courts for how long?
16 months, wasn't it?
16 months.
16 months. It's a very long time.
That's even longer than the time when Serena Williams stayed away from the court. So yeah, it's a very tricky start for her. Looking for the past few matches in Australia, I don't really, including the warming up matches, I don't really think she is there yet and returning to her prime.
Yeah.
I think she has found her rhythm in hitting those shots. There were some signature powerful shots from her side of the game against Caroline Garcia. She made a lot of beautiful shots, but her footwork wasn't quite there compared to her peak time. Her reaction to the ball and the following movement were kind of slow, and which disallowed him to attack or counter-attack from a rather comfortable position.
Yeah.
That certainly compromised her shot qualities. Osaka also admitted that she wasn't in her best after that match. Of course, meeting the 16th seed Garcia to open the Grand Slam is not easy. There's no time to fine-tune her form. Competition became intense from the very first minute. But I guess Osaka has to deal with this kind of situation in the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's early days, and I think we're just going to have to watch her progress as the year goes on. But I mean, I think it's great to see one of the stars of the game return, and we have to see what she can go on and achieve. And we have to look forward to the rest of the Australian Open. I think it's going to be great to watch, and lots of excitement. And I think it's going to be a great year for tennis, which of course includes the Paris 2024 Olympics, which should also be great to watch. But that's all we have time for on this week's episode of Sideline Story. Thank you so much for joining us, and of course we will be back next week with our latest topic, and we'll see you then.
This is CGTN Radio. Hear the difference.